Commander Taeyang stood on the bridge of his warship and watched 3 planets die. The screen showed bright flashes of light as enemy weapons struck the surface. Millions of people lived on those planets. Now they were gone. He closed his eyes, but the images stayed in his mind. The battle was over. The Galactic Coalition had lost again. For 30 years they fought the Vrakoth Imperium. For 30 years they lost ground. The Coalition once controlled hundreds of star systems. Now only 6 remained. Their mighty fleets were destroyed. Their armies were scattered. Their people were running for their lives. Taeyang was from the Kelthrian species. His people were known for their strategic minds. He won many battles in his younger days. Officers called him a genius. Soldiers trusted him with their lives. But genius meant nothing against an enemy that never stopped coming. The Vrakoth had thousands of ships. The Coalition had hundreds. The math was simple. The Coalition would lose. A young officer approached him. Her face was pale with fear. She said the enemy fleet was moving to the next system. Taeyang nodded. He knew what would happen next. More death, more destruction, more refugees with nowhere to run. He gave orders to retreat. There was nothing else they could do. Far away on the Coalition capital world, Ambassador Jiwoo sat in the Great Archives. She was Sylvari, a species known for their diplomatic skills. But diplomacy was useless now. The Vrakoth did not negotiate. They only conquered. Jiwoo searched through old records, looking for anything that might help. Any ally, any weapon, any hope. The archives were ancient. They contained records from thousands of years of galactic history. Jiwoo read about species that joined the Coalition. She read about species that refused. She read about wars won and wars lost. But nothing helped. The Coalition had no hidden allies, no secret weapons, no miracle waiting to be discovered. Then she found something strange. A record from 400 years ago. A species called humans. They lived in a system called Sol. Coalition scouts made contact with them. The humans wanted to join the Coalition. They seemed eager to meet other species. But the Coalition Council rejected them. The report said humans were too aggressive, too emotional, too dangerous for civilized society. Jiwoo read more. The humans accepted the rejection peacefully. They withdrew to their home system. They cut off all contact with the galaxy. 400 years passed with no word from them. Most people forgot they existed. The record said their technology was primitive. They had basic space travel, simple weapons, small population, nothing impressive, but Jiwoo wondered. 400 years was a long time. What happened to the humans in that time? Did they still exist? Did they advance? She brought the records to Supreme Archon Krevthul, the leader of the Coalition. He was old and tired. The weight of billions of lives pressed on his shoulders. He read the records and shook his head. Krevthul said it was foolish to hope for help from a species the Coalition rejected. The humans probably hated them. They might refuse to help. They might not even exist anymore. The journey to their system would take weeks. The Coalition did not have weeks to spare. Every day the Vrakoth grew stronger. Every day more Coalition worlds fell, Jiwoo argued back. She said they had no other options. The military could not win. The population could not run forever. In 6 months, maybe less, the Coalition would be extinct. Gone, forgotten. Was it not worth trying everything, even desperate things? Krevthul was silent for a long time. Then he agreed. He authorized a small diplomatic ship to travel to the Sol system. It was their last hope. On the bridge of his warship, Taeyang received orders to escort refugee ships to the last safe systems. He watched the scared faces on the screens. Children crying, parents trying to comfort them. Old people who survived other wars but might not survive this one. He felt anger burning in his chest. The Coalition should have been stronger. They should have prepared better. They should have found allies before it was too late. His tactical officer reported enemy movements. The Vrakoth were advancing on 5 fronts. Coalition forces retreated on all of them. There were not enough ships to defend. Not enough soldiers to fight. Not enough time to evacuate everyone. Taeyang made hard choices. Which planets to defend? Which planets to abandon? Who lived? Who died? High Warlord Jakros commanded the Vrakoth fleet from his massive flagship. He watched reports of Coalition retreats and smiled. Victory was close. The Coalition was broken. Their fleet scattered. Their leaders desperate. Soon the galaxy would belong to the Vrakoth Imperium. Jakros believed in strength. The strong conquered. The weak died. That was the natural order. He sent orders to his commanders. Press the attack. Show no mercy. The coalition rejected peace offers. They chose extinction. Jacques would give it to them. His species would rule where others failed. The Vrakoth would spread across every star. No one would stop them. No one could stop them. Ambassador Jiwoo boarded the diplomatic ship with a small crew. They loaded supplies for a long journey. The crew was nervous. The Sol system was far away. They would be alone in empty space for weeks. If the humans were hostile, they would die. If the humans were gone, they wasted precious time. But Jiwoo refused to give up hope. Hope was all they had left. The ship left Coalition space and entered the vast darkness between stars. Days passed slowly. The crew monitored sensors. They saw nothing but empty space. No ships, no signals, no signs of life. Jiwoo spent her time preparing what she would say to the humans. How do you ask for help from people you rejected? How do you convince them to risk their lives for strangers? Finally, they reached the Sol system. The sensors immediately lit up with thousands of contacts. The crew stared in shock. The system was full of artificial structures. Massive orbital platforms surrounded the third planet. Defensive stations protected every approach. Ships moved in organized patterns. Energy readings were enormous. This was not a primitive civilization. This was not a weak species. This was a fortress. A message came through in perfect galactic standard language. The voice was calm and professional. It said they entered United Terran space. They must identify themselves immediately. Jiwoo took a deep breath. This was the moment. She opened a channel and spoke. She said they came from the Galactic Coalition. They needed help. They were dying. Would humanity answer their call? The response was silence. Long, terrible silence. Jiwoo felt her hope fading. Then the voice spoke again. It said human ships would escort them to Earth. They should follow and make no aggressive moves. Jiwoo agreed quickly. The diplomatic ship followed the escort vessels toward the blue planet below. She wondered what they would find there. She wondered if humanity remembered being rejected. She wondered if they would help or turn away. As the ship descended through Earth's atmosphere, Jiwoo saw massive cities covering the surface. Billions of lights, millions of structures. Orbital elevators reaching into space. This was not the primitive world from the old records. In 400 years, humanity built something incredible, something powerful, something that might, just might, save the coalition from extinction. But would they? The landing platform was huge. Ambassador Jiwoo stepped off her ship and looked around in wonder. Human soldiers stood at attention in perfect lines. Their uniforms were clean and professional. Their weapons were advanced, unlike anything in coalition arsenals. Above them, massive towers reached into the sky. Flying vehicles moved between buildings in organized patterns. Everything spoke of order, efficiency, and power. A human officer approached. He was tall with dark hair and serious eyes. He introduced himself as Admiral Hyunwoo, commander of the United Earth Defense Fleet. His voice was polite but cautious. He asked why the coalition came to Earth after 400 years of silence. Jiwoo felt shame burn in her chest. She knew what he was really asking. Why should we help you after you rejected us? They walked through the city to a government building. Jiwoo tried not to stare at everything. Humans moved with purpose through clean streets. Children played in parks. Markets sold goods from across the solar system. This was a thriving civilization. Population displays showed 84 billion humans lived in the Sol system. The coalition capital had only 12 billion people remaining. Humanity outnumbered them 7-1. Inside the building, Jiwoo met more human leaders. Secretary General Da-yoon led the United Earth government. She was a small woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Dr. Bora was a scientist who studied alien species. She seemed excited to meet Jiwoo, asking questions about silvery biology and culture. For a moment, Jiwoo forgot why she came. Then Da-yoon asked her to explain the situation. Jiwoo told them everything. She described the Vrakoth Imperium and their endless fleets. She explained how the coalition fought for 30 years and lost ground every day. She showed them recordings of destroyed planets. Children dying, cities burning, billions dead and billions more waiting to die. She showed them projections. In 6 months, the coalition would be extinct. Every person, every world, gone forever. The humans listened in silence. Their faces showed different emotions. Anger at the Vrakoth brutality, sadness for the suffering, but also doubt. Admiral Hyunwoo asked the hard question. Why should humanity risk their lives for the Coalition? The Coalition rejected Earth 400 years ago. They said humans were too dangerous, too aggressive, not civilized enough. Now they came begging for help. What changed? Jiwoo had no good answer. She could not defend what the Coalition did. It was wrong. She said so clearly. The Coalition made a terrible mistake. They judged humanity unfairly. They were arrogant. They thought they knew better. Now they were paying the price for that arrogance, but billions of innocent people would die for mistakes made by leaders centuries ago. Was that just? Dr. Bora spoke up. She said she studied the old records. She knew why the Coalition rejected humanity. Humans had just finished a terrible war among themselves. Millions died. The Coalition scouts saw the destruction and feared humanity would bring violence to the galaxy. But humans learned from that war. They built a better society. They achieved peace. They proved the Coalition was wrong about them. Secretary General Da-un called for a council meeting. The United Earth Council included representatives from every major human nation. They would debate and vote on whether to help the Coalition. Jiwoo waited outside the chamber for 3 days. She barely ate. She could not sleep. Everything depended on what the humans decided. Inside the chamber, humans argued. Some said they should stay isolated. Earth was safe. The Vrakoth were far away. Why risk human lives for aliens who rejected them? Other voices said isolation was cowardice. Billions of innocent beings faced extinction. How could humanity do nothing? What kind of people would they be if they let genocide happen when they had the power to stop it? Admiral Hyunwoo gave a speech. He said he understood the anger about the old rejection. He felt it too. But revenge was not justice. The people dying now were not the ones who rejected Earth. They were children, families, ordinary people who just wanted to live. If humanity did nothing, they would prove the old Coalition was right. They would prove humans were too selfish, too cruel to join civilized society. The debate continued. Dr. Bora presented research on the Vrakoth. Their empire used biological weapons. They committed genocide on dozens of species. If they won, they would not stop with the Coalition. Eventually, they would find Earth. Humanity could fight them now with allies or fight them later alone. The choice was strategic as well as moral. On the 3rd day, Secretary General Da-un called for a vote. The chamber fell silent. One by one, representatives voted. Jiwoo could not see what happened, but she felt time stretching out forever. Each second lasted an hour. Each minute felt like a day. Her species' survival hung in the balance. Finally, the doors opened. Da-un emerged. Her face was serious but determined. She looked at Jiwoo and spoke. The vote passed. Humanity would intervene. Not because the Coalition deserved help. Not because of past relationships. But because standing by while billions died was unacceptable. Humanity would not be defined by what others thought of them. They would be defined by what they chose to do when it mattered most. Jiwoo felt tears run down her face. She tried to thank Da-un, but words failed her. The Secretary General put a hand on her shoulder. She said thanks were not necessary. Humanity did not help for gratitude. They helped because it was right. But she warned Jiwoo that this would be dangerous. Humans would die in this war. Earth might be attacked. Humanity was choosing to risk everything for strangers. They would not waste that sacrifice. Admiral Hyunwoo took Jiwoo to the orbital shipyards. What she saw there made her knees weak. Thousands of warships floated in organized formations. Each ship was massive, larger than anything the Coalition built. Their hulls gleamed with advanced armor. Weapons arrays covered every surface. Energy readings showed power systems far beyond Coalition technology. These were not primitive vessels. These were instruments of war perfected over centuries. Hyunwoo explained that humanity never stopped advancing after the rejection. They poured resources into technology, defense, and expansion. They explored their solar system completely. They built colonies on every planet and moon. They created artificial habitats in orbit. And they prepared defenses. If the galaxy would not accept them, they would make sure the galaxy could never threaten them. Jiwoo asked about the ship's capabilities. Hyunwoo gave her data files. She read them on the journey back to Coalition space. Each file made her more amazed and more hopeful. Human ships could travel faster than Coalition vessels. Their weapons hit harder. Their shields were stronger. Their targeting systems used artificial intelligence that could track thousands of targets simultaneously. Their crews trained in realistic combat simulations. Everything was designed for one purpose: victory. She sent encrypted messages to Commander Tae Yang. She told him help was coming. She sent him the technical specifications. She warned him that what he would see might seem impossible. Humanity had become something the galaxy never expected. They were not the primitive species from the old records. They were not the aggressive barbarians the Coalition feared. They were the most advanced military force in known space. Tai Yang received the message while retreating from another lost battle. He read the specifications 3 times. He checked them for errors. The numbers seemed wrong. Ships that powerful should not be possible. Energy systems that efficient violated what he knew about physics. Weapons that destructive would require massive vessels, not the sleek designs shown in the images. Either Jiwoo was wrong, or humanity achieved something extraordinary. He called his senior officers together. He showed them the data. They reacted with disbelief. Some laughed. Some thought it was a mistake. Some worried Jiwoo was tricked by human propaganda. But Tae Yang remembered seeing thousands of energy signatures in the Sol system. He remembered the defensive platforms and organized fleets. Maybe, just maybe, this was real. Supreme Archon Krevthul received the same data. He studied it carefully. He consulted with scientists and engineers. They confirmed the technology was possible, just far beyond current Coalition capabilities. Humanity advanced faster in 400 years than the Coalition did in 4,000. It seemed incredible, but the evidence was there. Krevthul issued orders to all Coalition forces. Human ships would arrive soon. They should be prepared for joint operations. He did not know if humanity could turn the tide of war. But for the first time in years, he felt something he thought was lost forever. He felt hope. The Therian system was dying. 12 billion refugees crowded onto 3 planets waiting for the end. Commander Tae Yang stood on his ship's bridge and watched the Vrakoth Armada approach. 8,000 enemy warships filled the sensor screens. The Coalition fleet had only 400 vessels left, most of them damaged. The math was simple and terrible. They would lose. Everyone would die. High Warlord Jakros commanded the Vrakoth fleet from his flagship. He felt satisfaction as he studied the tactical display. The Coalition was trapped. Their last worlds were before him. Their last fleets were weak. This would be the final battle. After today, the Coalition would be history. The galaxy would belong to the Vrakoth as it should be. Jakros opened a broadcast to all Coalition ships. His voice was cold and final. He said they had one chance to surrender. Lay down weapons. Abandon their worlds. Accept Vrakoth rule. Or die, every person, every ship, every hope. He gave them 1 hour to decide. Then he would show no mercy. Tae Yang listened to the ultimatum. His officers looked at him, waiting for orders. Some wanted to surrender, save at least some lives. Others wanted to fight to the end, die with honor rather than live as slaves. Tae Yang understood both views, but he made a different choice. He told his fleet to hold position. Help was coming. They just needed to survive until it arrived. Many officers thought he lost his mind. What help? The Coalition had no reserves, no hidden fleets, no secret weapons. But Tae Yang thought about the message from Jiwoo. Humanity was coming. If they could delay the Vrakoth for even a few hours, maybe there was a chance. A small chance. But better than none. The hour ended. Jakros ordered the attack. 8,000 Vrakoth ships advanced in organized waves. Their weapons fired, filling space with deadly energy. Coalition shields flared and failed. Ships exploded. Hundreds of lives ended in seconds. The defense lines broke. The Coalition fleet scattered, trying to protect the refugee planets behind them. Tae Yang's ship shook as weapons hit the shields. Damage reports came in from every section. Engineering said shields would fail soon. Weapons said ammunition was running low. Medical said they had more wounded than beds. Every system was pushed beyond limits. They were dying, and the battle just started. 2 hours into the battle, the Coalition lost 200 ships. The Vrakoth pushed closer to the planets. Soon they would be in range to attack the surface. Billions of refugees watched the sky and waited for death. Some prayed. Some held their families. Some just sat in silence, too scared to move. Tae Yang prepared to give evacuation orders. It was hopeless. They could not win. At least they could save some people. He opened his mouth to speak. Then every sensor on his ship screamed warnings. Space itself was tearing open. Massive energy signatures appeared. Not one or two. Thousands. Right in the middle of the battlefield, 2,000 human warships materialized out of faster-than-light travel. They appeared in perfect formation, their timing precise to the second. The ships were beautiful and deadly, sleek hulls covered in advanced armor, weapon arrays that glowed with ready power, energy shields that bent light around them. This was not a desperate fleet. This was a force built to dominate, a message broadcast on all frequencies. The voice was calm and professional. It identified itself as Captain J. Juan of the United Earth Defense Fleet flagship Indomitable. He spoke to coalition forces first. Hold your positions. Help has arrived. Then he spoke to the Vrakoth. Stand down immediately. Withdraw from this system, or be destroyed. Choose now. Jakros heard the message and laughed. 2,000 ships? He had 8,000. Even if these humans were good fighters, numbers would win. He ordered his fleet to target the human vessels. Show these newcomers what happened to those who interfered. The Vrakoth fleet turned and fired. Thousands of weapons targeted the human ships. The human shields absorbed everything. Energy weapons splashed harmlessly against barriers that did not even flicker. Kinetic projectiles bounced off like rain. Missiles detonated without causing damage. The human ships did not even try to dodge. They just took the hits and ignored them. Taeyang watched in amazement. Nothing could withstand that much firepower. But humanity did. Then the humans fired back. Their weapons were different, faster, more accurate, more powerful. Each human ship targeted multiple enemies at once. Their artificial intelligence tracked thousands of targets simultaneously. Their weapons never missed. Energy beams cut through Vrakoth armor like it was paper. Kinetic rounds punched through shields and hulls. Missiles flew in patterns that were impossible to intercept. The Vrakoth fleet scattered in confusion. They were used to easy victories. Used to weaker enemies. This was different. Human ships moved with impossible speed. They changed direction in ways that should tear them apart. They appeared where they should not be. Fought in ways the Vrakoth never encountered. This was not a battle. This was a lesson in warfare from masters. Lieutenant Mi-sun worked at her station on the Indomitable. This was her first real combat. She expected to be scared. But human training was so thorough, so realistic that this felt like another simulation. Her hands moved automatically, tracking targets, confirming weapon locks, firing. Each action smooth and practiced. Around her, the crew worked like a machine. Everyone knew their job perfectly. Captain Jae-hwan commanded from the center of the bridge. He watched displays showing the entire battle. Human ships flowed through enemy formations like water. Every movement was coordinated. Every attack was precisely timed. The Vrakoth had numbers. Humans had skill, technology, and experience. It was not a fair fight. 1 hour into the battle, the Vrakoth lost 1,000 ships. Jakros watched in growing horror. His fleet was supposed to be invincible. For 30 years, they won every battle. Now they were being slaughtered. He sent his best units against the human flagship. Elite Vrakoth warriors who never lost a fight. The Indomitable destroyed them all without taking damage. 2 hours in, 3,000 Vrakoth ships were destroyed. The rest tried to retreat. But human ships were faster. They cut off escape routes, surrounded enemy formations, gave no chance to run. Jae-hwan broadcast another message. Surrender now or die. There would be no third warning. The choice was simple. Some Vrakoth commanders surrendered. They powered down weapons and waited for capture. Others tried to fight. They died quickly. Jakros refused to give up. He ordered his flagship forward, weapons blazing. He would rather die than admit defeat. The Indomitable targeted his ship specifically. Precision weapons disabled the engines. Cut the power. Left the flagship floating helpless in space. Jakros was captured alive. 4 hours after the human fleet arrived, the battle ended. 8,000 Vrakoth warships were reduced to 800. 7,200 ships destroyed or captured. Not a single human vessel was lost, not one. The coalition forces watched in stunned silence. They saw the recordings. They checked the data. It seemed impossible, but it was real. Taeyang received a communication request from Captain Jae-hwan. He accepted immediately. The human captain appeared on the screen. He looked calm, like he just finished a training exercise rather than a massive battle. He asked if coalition forces needed assistance. Medical supplies, repairs, food, humanity brought everything. Then Jae-hwan asked a question that changed everything. He asked where the Vrakoth homeworld was located. Taeyang understood immediately. Humanity did not come for a defensive war. They came to end the war completely. Take the fight to the enemy. Finish this permanently. He provided the coordinates. Jae-hwan thanked him and said the human fleet would move out soon. On the refugee planets below, billions of people watched the battle end. They saw their saviors. Ships from a species the Coalition once rejected. Ships that came despite having no reason to help. Ships that saved them when defeat was certain. People went into the streets. They cried. They celebrated. They thanked whatever gods they believed in. They were alive. Against all odds, they survived. Taeyang sat in his command chair and tried to process what he witnessed. For 30 years, the Coalition fought and lost. For 30 years, they retreated and died. In 4 hours, humanity did what seemed impossible. They won. Decisively, completely, overwhelmingly. The future suddenly looked different. The war was not over yet. But now they had a chance. The war changed overnight. Human fleets spread across Coalition space like a shield. Everywhere they went, Vrakoth forces retreated. The predators became prey. The hunters became hunted. For the first time in 30 years, Coalition worlds felt safe. General Yan-hee arrived with the second wave of human forces. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. Her job was to coordinate joint operations between Coalition and human forces. She met with Coalition commanders and studied their tactics. What she saw frustrated her. They fought defensively, always retreating, always reacting, never attacking, never taking initiative. She called a meeting with senior Coalition officers. Commander Taeyang attended. Yan-hee spoke bluntly. She said defensive warfare would never win. The Vrakoth had more territory, more resources, more ships. If the Coalition only defended, they would lose eventually. The only way to win was to attack. Hit the enemy where it hurt. Destroy their ability to make war. Taeyang understood her logic. But Coalition forces were not trained for offensive operations. They spent decades retreating. Their ships were designed to defend, not attack. Their crews were exhausted. Their equipment was old. How could they suddenly become an attack force? Yan-hee had answers. Human engineering ships arrived in every liberated system. They brought massive construction equipment. In weeks, they built defensive stations that would have taken the Coalition years to complete. They repaired damaged ships faster than Coalition yards could. They upgraded Coalition weapons with human technology. Suddenly, Coalition forces had tools they never imagined possible. Human training officers worked with Coalition crews. They taught new tactics, new strategies, how to attack enemy supply lines, how to coordinate fleet movements, how to use speed instead of armor. The Coalition soldiers learned quickly. They were tired of losing, tired of running. Human methods gave them a way to fight back. Medical ships arrived too. Human doctors treated millions of wounded Coalition soldiers. They brought medicines that healed injuries Coalition doctors thought were permanent. They used advanced surgery techniques, saved lives that would have been lost. Refugees who spent months running finally received proper care. Children who went hungry finally had food. Hope spread like fire. Commander Dong-hyun led a special operation during this time. He commanded an elite human special forces team. Their mission was to raid a Vrakoth intelligence facility deep in enemy territory. The facility contained information about Vrakoth military plans, supply routes, and weapons programs, especially their biological weapons program. The raid was dangerous. The facility was heavily defended. But human stealth technology was centuries ahead of anything the Vrakoth had. Dong-hyun's team infiltrated silently. They moved through the base like ghosts. Guards never saw them. Sensors never detected them. They reached the central computer core and downloaded everything. What they found shocked even hardened soldiers. The Vrakoth biological weapons program was massive. They developed diseases designed to kill specific species. They tested these weapons on civilian populations. Entire planets used as laboratories. Billions died in experiments. The scale of war crimes was beyond imagination. Dong-hyun's team destroyed the facility and escaped. But the data they captured would change the war. Admiral Hyun-woo studied the captured intelligence with his staff. They mapped every Vrakoth military base, every shipyard, every supply depot, every communication relay. The Vrakoth Empire looked strong, but it had weaknesses. Their supply lines were long. Their communications were centralized. Their industrial centers were concentrated. Attack the right targets and the empire would collapse. Hyunwoo planned Operation Maelstrom, a massive coordinated offensive across 12 sectors simultaneously. Human fleets would strike at Vrakoth industrial centers, destroy their shipyards, cut their supply lines, blind their communications. Coalition forces would support the attacks, protecting liberated worlds. It was ambitious. It was risky, but it could end the war. The operation launched on schedule. 12 human fleets attacked 12 different targets at exactly the same time. The Vrakoth could not respond to everything. They sent forces to defend one sector, leaving others weak. Human ships appeared where defenses were thin. Struck fast, hit hard. Left before reinforcements arrived. This was warfare as humanity perfected it. Precise, coordinated, overwhelming. In the Karvan sector, human ships destroyed the largest Vrakoth shipyard. Thousands of ships under construction were lost, years of work destroyed in hours. In the Theros sector, precision strikes took out communication satellites. Vrakoth commanders could not coordinate their forces. In the Dalton sector, orbital bombardment destroyed factories that made Vrakoth weapons. The Empire's ability to make war was being systematically destroyed. Coalition forces fought alongside human fleets. They saw how humans planned operations, how they gathered intelligence, how they struck with perfect timing. Coalition officers learned more in 1 month than in years of defensive fighting. Taeyang led a coalition task force that protected newly liberated colonies. His ships moved with confidence now. They were not running anymore. They were advancing. On Earth, Ambassador Jiwoo worked with Dr. Bora on cultural exchange programs. Human civilians wanted to meet coalition species, learn about their cultures, understand their histories. Coalition refugees arrived on Earth and were amazed. Humans welcomed them, gave them shelter, treated them as guests, not burdens. Children from different species played together in parks. Adults shared meals and stories. For the first time in decades, coalition citizens felt safe. Jiwoo realized something important. Humans were not special because of their technology. Many species could develop advanced weapons. Humans were special because of how they used their power. They could have demanded payment for their help, could have demanded territory, could have demanded control, but they did none of that. They helped because it was right. They fought because innocence needed protection. Their strength came from their values, not just their weapons. 3 months after humanity's intervention, 47 coalition worlds were liberated. Billions of people returned to their homes. Reconstruction began everywhere. Human engineers taught coalition workers how to build better infrastructure. Human farmers shared techniques to grow more food. Human doctors trained coalition medical staff in advanced procedures. This was not just military aid. This was civilization helping civilization. The Vrakoth Empire was in chaos. High Warlord Zakros was captured. His replacement, Warlord Vrex, tried to reorganize defenses, but the damage was done. Shipyards destroyed, supply lines cut, communications disrupted. Worlds in rebellion. The mighty Vrakoth Empire, which seemed invincible just months ago, was collapsing. Vrex knew they could not win, but he refused to accept defeat. In a secret meeting with his remaining commanders, Vrex made a terrible decision. If the Vrakoth could not win, they would hurt humanity, make them regret interfering. The Empire had one weapon left, a stealth fleet equipped with planet-killer biological weapons, weapons designed to exterminate all life on a world. The target would be Earth itself, humanity's homeworld. The stealth fleet was prepared in secret, ships equipped with special technology to hide from sensors, weapons loaded with the most deadly diseases ever created, crews chosen from the most fanatical Vrakoth warriors. They would strike when humanity least expected it. When human forces were spread across the galaxy, when Earth's defenses were thin, they would make humanity pay for their interference. The fleet departed for Sol System. Vrex watched them go and felt grim satisfaction. Humanity thought they were winning. They thought the war was almost over. They would learn that the Vrakoth did not surrender. Even in defeat, they would strike back. Even in dying, they would take their enemies with them. On Earth, Secretary General Da Yun addressed the United Earth Council. She reported on the war's progress. 47 worlds liberated. Vrakoth military capacity reduced by 70%. Coalition forces reorganized and rearmed. Victory seemed close. The council members celebrated. Some suggested bringing forces home soon. The war was almost won. Why risk more human lives? Dayun agreed the war was going well, but she warned against overconfidence. The Vrakoth were desperate. Desperate enemies were dangerous. Earth's defenses needed to stay strong. The council agreed to maintain defensive readiness, but most thought the real war was in Vrakoth space. They did not expect an attack on Earth itself. That would be suicide for the Vrakoth. What they did not know was that Warlord Vrex no longer cared about survival. He only cared about revenge. Commander Haywan monitored the outer Sol system from her station on Saturn's moon Titan. Her job was to watch for threats. Most days nothing happened. Space was vast and empty. Human defensive platforms tracked passing asteroids. Commercial ships moved between planets. Everything was normal. Then her sensors detected something strange. Gravitational distortions near Jupiter. Small ones. Easy to miss. But Haywan was careful. She increased sensor sensitivity. The distortions were moving, coming closer, spreading out. This was not natural. Something was there, something hiding. She raised the alert level and called for backup. More sensors focused on the area. Advanced equipment designed to detect stealth technology. The readings became clearer. Ships, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all using stealth systems to hide their approach. All moving toward Earth, all carrying weapons. Haywan's blood ran cold. This was an attack. A surprise attack on humanity's homeworld. She sent immediate warnings to Earth Defense Command. Vrakoth stealth fleet detected. Distance to Earth 6 hours. Estimated enemy numbers 200 ships. Purpose unknown. But given the stealth approach and weapon signatures, this was clearly hostile. Earth's defensive fleet scrambled. Every available ship moved to intercept. Civilians began evacuation procedures. On Earth, alarms sounded across every major city. People looked up in confusion and fear. Attack warning. Here, Earth was supposed to be safe. The war was far away. But the warnings were real. Millions of people moved to underground shelters. Parents grabbed their children. Emergency services mobilized. This was not a drill. Admiral Hyunwoo received the alert while commanding operations 200 light-years away. A Vrakoth stealth fleet was attacking Earth. He felt ice in his stomach. Most of humanity's military force was deployed across coalition space. Earth's home defense fleet was strong, but not at full strength. The Vrakoth planned this carefully. They waited until human forces were spread thin. He had a terrible choice to make. Pull forces back to defend Earth, or continue the offensive against Vrakoth territory. Retreating would save Earth but give the Vrakoth time to rebuild. Continuing the attack would keep pressure on the enemy but risk Earth's safety. Every instinct screamed to go home. Protect his world. But strategic thinking said otherwise. Hyunwoo called his senior commanders. They debated quickly. Some argued for withdrawal. Earth was home. They could not let it fall. Others argued for continuing the offensive. The Vrakoth expected them to panic and retreat. That was the plan. Draw human forces away from Vrakoth territory. If they did not fall for the trap, the war would end faster. Save more lives in the long run. Before they decided, another message arrived. This one from Commander Tae Yang. He saw human intelligence reports about the attack. He knew what it meant. Now he made his own decision. Coalition forces would defend Earth. Every available coalition ship would jump to Sol system immediately. Humanity saved the coalition. Now the coalition would save humanity. Tae Yang did not ask permission from his superiors. He did not wait for orders. He just acted, gathered every coalition warship in range, told them where to go and why. Some officers questioned him. Why risk coalition forces for Earth? The war against the Vrakoth was not finished. Tae Yang's answer was simple. Humanity risked everything to help strangers. The coalition would do the same. In space near Jupiter, the battle began. Commander Haywan's defense fleet engaged the Vrakoth stealth ships. The enemy came out of hiding and attacked. Their weapons were powerful, designed specifically to penetrate human shields. They studied human technology from the previous battles, adapted their tactics. This was not like the Battle of Therion. This time the Vrakoth were ready. Human ships fought hard. Their training was superior. Their weapons were better. But they were outnumbered 3-1. The Vrakoth accepted massive casualties just to push forward. They did not care about surviving. This was a suicide mission. Their only goal was reaching Earth with their biological weapons. Every second mattered. HFY's flagship took multiple hits. Shields failed in several sections. Hull breaches vented atmosphere. Wounded crew members were carried to medical. But she kept fighting, kept giving orders, kept buying time. Earth needed time to evacuate, time to prepare defenses, time for help to arrive. She would give them that time no matter the cost. On Earth, scientist Young Jae worked frantically in his laboratory. He studied the biological weapons data that Commander Dong Hyun's team captured from the Vrakoth facility. Now that research was critical. If those weapons reached Earth, billions would die. Young Jae needed to develop countermeasures, medicine, vaccines, something to protect human biology from alien diseases. The weapons were sophisticated, designed to attack human DNA specifically. The Vrakoth studied human biology from prisoners and created perfect killers. Normal diseases could be treated. These could not. They would spread too fast, kill too quickly. By the time doctors identified them, entire cities would be infected. Young Jae worked with a team of the best scientists on Earth. They had hours to solve a problem that should take years. 2 hours into the battle, the Coalition fleet arrived. 400 Coalition warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel right into the combat zone. Taeyang's ship led them. He broadcast to all forces. Coalition fleet reporting for duty. "Where do you need us?" HFY almost cried with relief. She directed them to the weakest points in the defense line. The Coalition ships fought with everything they learned from humans. They coordinated their movements, used advanced tactics, struck at enemy weak points. They were not the same force that lost at Therion. They were stronger, smarter, better equipped. Human training and human weapons made them effective. But more than that, they fought with determination. They were not defending their home. They were defending their friends. The combined fleet pushed back the Vrakoth attack. But some enemy ships broke through. 12 Vrakoth vessels reached Earth's inner defensive ring. They accelerated toward the planet. Weapons armed, ready to deploy their biological payloads, human planetary defense fired everything. Missiles, energy weapons, kinetic projectiles. They destroyed 11 ships. But one got through. The last Vrakoth ship crashed into Earth's atmosphere. It broke apart from defensive fire, but not before releasing its biological weapons. The diseases spread across the landing zone, a coastal colony with 20 million people. The colony went into immediate quarantine. No one in or out. Medical teams rushed to the scene in protective suits. They found people already showing symptoms: fever, bleeding, organ failure. The disease worked fast. Young Jae's team worked against time. They analyzed samples from the infected. The disease was worse than they feared. More aggressive, more deadly, spreading faster than models predicted. Without treatment, everyone in the colony would die within days. Then it would spread to the mainland. The entire planet was at risk. Young Jae felt the weight of billions of lives on his shoulders. Then he found something. A weakness in the disease's structure. A vulnerability they could exploit. He designed a treatment using techniques from the captured Vrakoth data. It was experimental. Untested, might not work. But they had no time for proper testing. No time for trials. He authorized immediate production. Medical teams began administering the treatment to infected patients. The first patients died. The treatment failed. Young Jae adjusted the formula. Tried again. More deaths. More failures. He felt despair creeping in. Then one patient stabilized. Then another. Then dozens. The treatment worked. It was not perfect. They lost millions of people in the coastal colony, but they saved billions. Earth survived. Barely. In orbit, the battle ended. Every Vrakoth stealth ship was destroyed. The Coalition fleet took heavy casualties. 30 ships lost. Thousands of crew members dead. But they won. Earth was saved. Taeyang's decision to help cost Coalition lives, but he had no regrets. Humanity saved the Coalition. The Coalition saved humanity. That was what allies did. Luna Colony, Earth's oldest space settlement, was heavily damaged by the fighting. Parts of it were exposed to space. Thousands died. Millions more were evacuated to safety. The colony that stood for centuries as a symbol of human achievement was scarred, but it stood. Damaged but not destroyed. Like Earth itself, Secretary General Dayun addressed both humanity and the Coalition. Her speech was broadcast across all liberated territories. She spoke calmly, but her words burned with determination. She said the Vrakoth attacked Earth, killed 20 million humans, damaged their oldest colony. They thought humanity would hesitate, would withdraw, would reconsider helping the coalition. They were wrong. Dayun said humanity was not afraid. They knew the price of war when they decided to intervene. They accepted that price. Human lives were precious. But so were coalition lives. Vrakoth lives. All lives. The Vrakoth made war on innocence itself. That could not be tolerated. The war would end at the Vrakoth homeworld. It would end with justice. It would end now. She announced Operation Final Justice. Every available human fleet would gather. Every coalition ship that could fight would join them. They would assault Karshak, the Vrakoth homeworld. They would end this war permanently. Not through genocide. Not through revenge, but through the complete destruction of the Vrakoth military capacity to make war.